I just started to see, like, over the last couple of years, right? I've been there 14 years, but over the last 3 or 4 years, where everything we had built started to come together, where we had this idea that we could build a nonprofit that would really lift up people with disabilities, but would be really exciting for the community, and people would want to be a part of it. They would be clamoring to be a part of it. We'd have companies clamoring to partner with us because we'd be getting such good results with them. We'd have volunteers clamoring to be a part of it because the experience of volunteering would be so positive. And that started to happen. And you'd have team members who get it, who get the vision, and they don't need to be directed to do these great things and to create great experiences, but they're just doing it because you've hired the right people and they understand the path to success, and they're just doing it and they're innovating within that.
With Jim Kales, President and CEO of Aspire Chicago. This is the second of 3 conversations I'm having with Jim about innovation. In this one, we further explore the notion of doing less to do more and how that frees up an organization to innovate in areas where it has chosen to play. Stay tuned for more. In flourishing organizations like Aspire, you find that the leadership has choreographed a certain kind of productive tension, which pits the effectiveness of current practices against the potential of new ones. Moving away from something is often the start of the innovation process.
What are you willing to give up?
That was Jeff DeGraff, a professor at Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan, and the author of several books about innovation.
Here's a radical notion. What if innovation isn't about starting anything new? What if it's about stopping something old? What if it's about creating capacity in your life? Right? If you got no room for it, you're not going to have it.
In Jim Kales' case, creating this capacity started 14 years ago when he took the helm of an organization that was in peril.
The organization was so financially pressed the first couple of years that we talked about this. Couldn't even pay our payroll, couldn't even, get ahead of things, like literally juggling bills, paying one and not paying the other, line of credit tapped out, state funding was just dismal. And it was like, God, we need to just totally blow this up and move towards a new model.
The effort to get clear about purpose was where Jim and the board started.
The organization had strategic plans before I got here, but they're the kind of strategic plan that I've seen where they said, we'll take all 16 departments that do programming at Aspire. We'll have each of them talk about what they need in the future and how they need more money, and then how they're going to grow and how they're going to adapt over the next 5 years. And then you put all those 16 into a big document and say, here's our strategic plan. And to me, a strategic plan has to look at, it's a dynamic relationship between what is a function need and what is the need of the sort of, when you look at it from the whole organization, what's the direction? And that what was lacking is, what's the focus of the organization? What's the mission of the organization? What's the direction for the organization? Because once you develop that, you may then go back to some of those 16 areas and say, well, why are we even doing these 3? These have nothing to do with that focus. And that was what we really had to do, was establish from that top level, why is Aspire here? What's the focus? Who do we really want to be when we grow up? And that was what wasn't there.
Establishing this clarity made it much easier for Jim and the leadership team to determine what fits and what doesn't.
At one point, we owned a 82-bed nursing home for people with disabilities, and it was losing about $300,000 to $400,000 a year, and it was segregated. In our terminology of our industry, it's a segregated facility. It's 82 people with disabilities all living together in a huge congregate facility. That's not inclusion. Inclusion is people living in a small home in a neighborhood in Upper Arlington or Hershey, Pennsylvania, or Chicago, Illinois, whatever it is, right?
Sure.
Living in the community, not with 100 other people with disabilities. So we said, we're not going to do that anymore. So we sold that. Now, that was a $4 million piece of Aspire. It was, at the time, a significant part of what we did. And some of the other CEOs in my field, the word was, well, he's crazy. Why would you shrink? That's the stupidest thing. He's going backwards. Well, we did shrink. But I would say what we did is, we were talking about fitness and stuff. We went from being a 300-pound, somebody who wasn't really healthy to a lean, mean Muhammad Ali, where we got lean, and and then once we got that lean core, then it was easy to see what we should grow, what we should add to that really fit, that really complemented. What kind of fuel did we need to go?
These types of moves freed capacity and, importantly, honed focus on the areas that remained priorities of Aspire. Then a conversation with a board member provided another lens for Jim and his team to further focus efforts.
One of my board members talks about a sense of how to win. What's our playbook for winning? And if we say we know that we need to do these 6 things in this particular field to win, then we should be doing those 6 things. In our work with employment, we do a lot of work with employing people with disabilities. We've been talking a lot as a team, like, what's unique about what we do and why is that a winner? And that's what we're doing now, is really in each area that we've identified that we're going to play in, is really now over the next 6 months determining a game plan of how do we win in this area and what's our unique advantage in this area.
This clarity of focus on partnerships has enabled Aspire to forge partnerships with the likes of Walgreens, Bank of America, and Hyatt Hotels. This partnership model enables Aspire to have longer-term and deeper relationships with key partners and to provide more meaningful and rewarding employment for its participants.
And it's also more sustainable. So we're not just relying on public funds, but then we have a partner that's invested in our work and can invest private funds in our work. And so we're always thinking about that. Every model we have has a component that says, where does private funding come in? So we're always thinking about multiple sources of revenue. And that's part of that platform, is the revenue generation model. Because if you want to grow the platform, you say, well, where does the money come from? And if it's only coming from, like, say, the state of Illinois, which is in really bad financial shape, you can't grow something. And so we're always trying to think, where do those revenue sources come from?
The net effect of these years of effort is a kind of upward spiral, with systems in place that enable the organization to flourish independent of Jim.
And that's happening now, where, I come in and I see great things happening, and I have nothing to do with actually winding it up to do that. All I can say, take some credit, is I helped to build that platform that made this possible.
Okay, so now Jim and the leadership have a model or platform for success. What's next? How does Aspire innovate within the areas it's chosen to play?
Now we're really looking at, in the next year, is really looking at, for our entire organization, this theme of the experience. What is the experience that we give to participants with disabilities, their families, donors, volunteers, corporate partners? How do people experience Aspire, and how does each team member enrich that experience? And we want to be diving deep into this idea of giving people a rich experience. We think we're already good at it, but we think we can be really great at it.
Jim is using a framing here that is always in an innovator's toolbox, the how might we framing. That is, he's charged his team to consider at every turn, how might we enrich this experience?
Kind of like almost the way Disney looks at the experience when you walk into one of their theme parks. I never will forget my family and I, a couple of years ago, we went down to Florida and we spent a couple days at Disney and then a couple days at Universal Studios. And when you go to Disney just to like check in and show your ticket, you know, the cast member there is like, oh my God, welcome to Disney and this, and hope you have a magic filled day. And you go to Universal Studios and they're like, where's your ticket? and like totally different experience, right? Yeah. And so Disney gets it. And we want to really teach our team members that we're good now, but we can be so much great if we really think about that experience. And all 250, 300 of us to be doing that is powerful.
Jim and I talked about the fact that if you're in the purpose business, you are, in fact, in the love business. And the focus and discipline of innovation lends itself to more and better results.
I think that there's not a conflict between passion and love and all those things. What we've been talking about here today is just, along with that love, I think Disney would be the first to tell you there's a lot of rigor at Disney along with that love, right? And which tells you what not to do. You know, I think if even if you look at just the way people are greeting people there and the way people are acting and the way they're training people to interact, yeah, it comes from a great foundation there of love and joy, and but there's discipline around that too.
For Jim Kales, the more his team focuses on excellence, the more it realizes what it could be.
We're nowhere near done. You know, we still, part of it is when you get good, it's like an athlete who gets good. They realize like, oh my God, I could even be so much better. And that's like every day is like, oh shoot, we could be so much better. And so we're driven by that.
When Jim and I talk again, we'll go deeper into how Aspire operationalizes innovation and how long it can take to make the cultural transition that Aspire has. When you say it takes time, what ballpark that for you? When did you feel like, okay, we've reached a watershed time? We've reached a tipping point as far as the organization. Was that 2-3 years, or was it 10 years? I have good news for you, though. Jim doesn't think that it has to take that long. Tune in next time to learn why. Thank you for listening, and as always, stay safe and be well.